It was incredible. Old Miss taking down Georgia 39-34. Trinidad Chambliss. I mean, what do you say about this kid? The story is incredible. And if you don't know about the story, he comes from D2 Ferris State. Now, if you don't know about D2 Ferris State, I mean, we can go deep. We can just continue to keep expanding the story. They're like one of the most successful D2 programs in like the history of college athletics. Wins a national championship with them, comes over to be the SEC quarterback at Old Miss, doesn't have the opportunity to start right away. It's kind of got that good old-fashioned story, kind of like the Max Duggan TCU story where he's takes over the job in the middle of the season because of an injury and then just starts to cook. Just cooks the entire time and gets themselves into a nice position. They're 12-1 heading into this game. They get the 13th win in this one. This is probably their most important win in maybe program history. Old Miss has a couple of national championships on their belt that they have claimed, but that has been before. That's been the back in the day. People can say maybe they're fraudulent. There's been some reports and there's been some processes about certain programs claiming national titles back in the day. It's not the same as what it is now. And Old Miss has done that back in 1960, 1962 being the most recent. Now they're 2 games away from, no doubt, having a national championship bid here. And Trinidad Chambliss, what he has done has been super impressive in this game. And I think we just watched a star in the making if he wasn't already that case in the game last night.
Dude, the story for Trinidad Chambliss is incredible, okay? I am not going to take anything away from that story, but I am not going to say a single word about it. What we witnessed last night, it just blew the story out of the water. And we know how important stories are. The single game performance from Trinidad Chambliss was beyond incredible. He went 30 of 46, 362, 2 touchdowns on the night. Okay. Incredible stat line. Stat line. But that fourth quarter, that second half was, I mean, maybe one of, and I've been thinking this, I don't know if this is necessarily the right thing to say, so hold on to your hats, right? Sit down before I tell you this. This may have been one of the greatest single player takeovers I have seen in a game. Now, I'm not, obviously he needs help from his wide receivers, but the 3-play stretch where he was, I cannot eat, like, I'm speechless. I am legitimately speechless about what Trinidad did in this game. And of course, there were other, contributors. We haven't even started talking about Kawan Lacey. Unbelievable night. Only 98 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, like, you might not say, oh, wow, he dominated the game. No, he was incredible. And he was an instrumental piece in one of those 3 plays. He got hit by a moving freight train and just shook it off like it was nothing. This Ole Miss team is so much fun to watch. And this game was a true testament to like what they're capable of doing. This is not just some Ole Miss team who limped into the playoffs and could move on. Like, this is a legitimate national title contender. So much fun to watch.
Yeah, but they did limp into the playoffs without Lane Kiffin, right?
True.
Remember, no Lane Kiffin. He's with LSU now. They have a brand new head coach, and it's been exciting to watch what he's done so far. I will say this. What I have seen from this team, overcoming all of this stuff right now with their head coach, with their former head coach going to LSU, mind you, a conference rival. This isn't just like some movement to the NFL or anything. This is a conference rival where as soon as Ole Miss is done with the transfer portal opening today as we speak, probably there's going to be a big movement in this team. This is probably the last time we see Ole Miss, the looking of this team that we have right now, maybe even with a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, who knows? But it's been super impressive to watch what they've continued to build and overcome. And I think it's really interesting that they've done it against a team now against Georgia. Kawan Lacey, you mentioned, super impressive. Harrison Wallace, super impressive. 9 receptions, 156. You had Deshaun Stribling, 7 receptions, 122 as well. And the defense was incredible. I mean, you might say they might not be perfect, but you let 34 points against Georgia. No, they were incredible. If you remember earlier in this season, Ole Miss lost to Georgia because they were leading into that game into the fourth quarter, and then Georgia scored 17 unanswered to turn around. Ole Miss flipped the script.
Georgia did not punt in that game, if I'm correct. No?
Not that I remember, no. I know there was no turnovers in that first game. I know that.
Yeah. No, this Georgia team like played very, very well in this game, and it came down to Ole Miss playing better and making better adjustments when it came down to it. But to kind of go back to my original point, and I want to hammer this home, it is almost impossible to beat a player that is as hot as Trinidad Chambliss was. And that could be for any sport ever. I mean, think back to like the 2016 Warriors, right? Warriors. Like, you just knew Curry was going to drain a three. It was just inevitable. It didn't matter if the Warriors were down 30. The game was already over. Now, with Trinidad Chambliss, he was literally throwing heat check touchdowns. That is not human. What he was against doing, Georgia. Scrambling, it was incredible. It was incredible. I mean, every play, I was like, that shouldn't work. No way that's going to happen. 40-yard bomb. Like, it was unbelievable. So, like, Georgia, one of the best teams out there, arguably, having one of the greatest coaches of all time in Kirby Smart. I would say like close to like dynasty level, just how incredible they are. And this year was no different. Like, they did come out and they played extremely well. They just didn't play. You had to play not only perfect, but like, well, I guess perfect might have gotten it done because Ole Miss did have a few steps here and there where they weren't exactly perfect. But you would have, if you're Georgia, had to basically play perfect and then make some incredible plays on top of that. That is the kind of game that Ole Miss had in this one. And boy, was it like, if they can do that every game, no one's going to beat them. Those are not human plays. Those are not like stoppable plays. You can't scheme for that.
We're hearing from players like Trinidad Chambliss, right? Also reminds me of a player like Josh Allen back in the day. Not when it comes to the storyline, the process. He received 0 D1 scholarships. That's why he had to go to Ferris State. And now we're seeing him just blossom on the national stage with Ole Miss, with a team that is, again, having crazy changes over and over again with their coaching change, with Lane Kiffin, with like arguably the biggest dramatic thing that happened in college football in the last decade. We saw basically a reality show happen before our eyes right before the college football playoffs, and they've just decided to, you know what, we're going to put the real tree camo on and just pretend that didn't happen and just go to work. And that's exactly what they've done. And now they're going to face Miami in the college football semifinals, which is going to be really exciting. I want to talk about the game in just a minute. But first, as much as we want to talk good about Ole Miss, and they deserve the credit, no doubt about it, on the flip side with Georgia, Gunnar Stockton might be the toughest son of a bee that I have ever watched play football. The amount of hits he took last night, the amount of resilience he took. I mean, even when they were losing, even when that crazy ref show happened at the end of the game where they had to review everything, put the stage on, the stage off. I mean, it took like 20 minutes to finish the last legit second of the football game last night. You could see Gunnar Stockton on the sideline just holding his poise. He deserves a lot of respect out of my book.
It's actually I'm glad you brought that up because it's easy to talk about how incredible Ole Miss was in this one because they won. And honestly, even if they would have lost, we probably still would be talking about Trinidad Chambliss and the run that he went on there, 13 in a row. But you're exactly right. Gunnar Stockton was hit multiple times in ways that probably would have brought authorities onto the field in the NFL. I mean, those guys would have been permanently suspended for some of those hits. And Gunnar Stockton was literally scoring touchdowns the next play. I'm pretty sure that the second or the third time Gunnar Stockton took a career-ending hit, he was calling his own number on purpose just to show the Rebels, hey, it does not bother me. You cannot faze me. I will run the ball after I just got my arm blown off by a bomb. Like, it doesn't matter. He was getting rocked. And then the next play, 6, 7, 8 yard gain, right? Like, whatever it was, complete the pass. It was incredible. There was no just hand it off, move on to the next play. So he deserves a ton of credit. And honestly, there were a ton of other guys for Georgia that I think deserved a lot of credit. I thought the targeting call was kind of a load early in the first half, like another point that I wanted to bring up at some point today. I understand that by the rule, he's defenseless, and it is what it is. And on the officiating point, I will say, I know we're not like, this is not the point of today's show, but like they called this game so perfectly right up to the last drive. I was loving it. It was just, they were letting the boys
missed
play
that
ball.
face mask call. That face mask call earlier in the middle of the fourth quarter was dreadful. I mean, it could have changed the entire game. 5 minutes to go, missed a face mask. Then Ole Miss had the punt to Georgia. I mean, that literally could have changed. I'm glad it didn't impact the game, like the way, like the outcome, but man, it could have.
It really felt like and I'm not saying that they were, because, I don't know, but it really felt
like B-Dubs called in, man. It felt like the B-Dubs button was pushed.
I'm pretty sure every person watching the game and in the stadium saw that face mask. And the ref is looking right at him. It wasn't like in a muddle of like, it was just plain as day. And then some of those calls on Georgia's last drive, I was like, really? After the way this game's been called, you're going to call that? Like, technically, sure. That's probably a flag, I guess. But man, was that a ticky-tack call. And I wasn't a huge fan of that. But other than that, I mean, this game was incredible. One of the, I think I told you, I showed the stat to you. The only game so far in the college football playoffs that's had both teams have a lead in regulation. That was obviously an instrumental part to how good this game was, the comeback of Ole Miss and everything. But geez, you bring up a good point though. Gunnar Stockton, we can't sleep on him. Like, he will be a force next year.
Now, the next college football playoff game we will get will be the semifinals, will be the Fiesta Bowl. It'll be Miami versus Ole Miss. That one's on Thursday, January 8th. That game is going to be incredible. 7:30 Eastern time, ESPN. You get one game on Thursday, one game on Friday. Ole Miss ended the quarterfinals. They're going to begin the semifinals against the Miami team, who has one of the greatest defensive lines that we might have seen in recent history. Can Trinidad Chambliss do this again? Like, the vibes are super high for both these teams with Miami and Ole Miss. What are your initial vibes yourself as the vibes guy here on a Friday morning? We're here on Marv and Rauh in the morning to take over. Is it Miami? Is it Ole Miss? Who's going to the national championship?
Gosh, I don't like, my initial thoughts are, can Ole Miss do that again? Yeah. Like, that was like when you're standing around with your buddies and you're like, hey, watch this. And you just like overhand chuck a basketball full court and it goes in and you're like, told you. But then if they asked you to do it again, it'd probably take you 10,000 tries. I don't know where I'm at with this Ole Miss team, because going into this game, I didn't think they could do it. So like, or at least not what they did. Now, obviously winning the game, I thought they could maybe win the game, but what they did, I didn't think they could do that. So I am going to lean Miami just because of that defensive line being what it was. And, you know, Ole Miss definitely had a few holes in this game. The turnover from Lacey, if the shoulder injury kind of persists, like, that could be a thing. But also, like, I think right now this Ole Miss team can kind of just do whatever they want. It feels like they've found some life behind this Pete Golding, you know, kind of, he's literally coached 2 games. He's coached 2 games and they've won them both. This was a huge Sugar Bowl win. I mean, if anything, it's going to be, you might have to look out for a hangover after a win like that, but this Ole Miss team is very capable of beating anybody. Do you think that Miami's, I mean, if you want to look at the defensive line, sure, but the poise from Carson Beck, like, he's been there. What do you make of this?
Yeah, the fact that Miami just took care of business against Ohio State too, who is seen as having one of the better offenses in college football, and kind of shut them down big time. And Julian Sayin, obviously Heisman Trophy. I think you'd have to, if I'm guessing, if there's an odds, you know, opening spread, I haven't seen it, I haven't looked it up. If there isn't, if there even is one yet, I'm guessing it is going to be in Miami's favor to start the game just because of that defense. But I think I'm going to ride the vibes here. I think I'm going to go with seeing Ole Miss in the national championship. I think I could see Trinidad Chambliss getting on in there. And man, could you imagine if they went the entire route, what the narrative for the rest of the offseason, what the questions of the legacy would be about Lane Kiffin leaving a team that went on to win the national championship game, while you're sitting at an LSU women's basketball game, while you're going to an LSU bowl game for 2 seconds, then leaving with a police escort. Like, there's a lot of people that give people a lot of crap that you're in a game, a child's game, if you will. We see it happen in a lot of sports. We see it happen in baseball. Anthony Rendon with baseball, where people give you crap for getting paid for it and then just showing you don't love the game. Yeah. If this happens, if Ole Miss runs it, Lane Kiffin's going to fall in that category.
Yeah, that's a great point. But then the other side of that coin is, how is Pete Golding kind of regarded moving forward? Because
they might build a statue of him before he even gets a full year of a head coach.
That is an impossible task. You got to rally a team behind basically like getting left in the dust. And he hasn't beat nobodies, right? He beat Tulane with no Lane. So I guess that wasn't maybe the easiest or the toughest win of all time. But this Georgia team, I mean, they beat them earlier, right? And this Georgia team like just won the SEC. Like, this is not a nobody. This was an incredible win. And I mean, if the season ended today, if they didn't even get a play in the next game, like, if they didn't even get a shot at Miami, I still think this has been a phenomenal success for Pete Golding and a phenomenal success for Ole Miss football. This was incredible.
If Ole Miss wins the Natty, I don't think a single Ole Miss fan would care if Lane Kiffin beat them for the next decade. I don't think a single Ole Miss fan would care.
I mean, now we're getting, yeah, you're probably right. We're getting into Ohio State kind of hypothetical theory with would you rather beat Michigan and win the Natty or not win the Natty the way the last 2 years have gone. But yeah, I think if it's specifically Lane Kiffin you're talking about, there's a legitimate conversation to be had there because this is like an unprecedented run. This is sweet.